Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What's going on, guys? As they say in, I don't know if they actually say this, but in the aeronomics, is that the right word for the people that fly?
Yes, I think.
I was going to say in the aeronautics industry.
Okay.
The Eagle has landed.
Eagle has landed.
Which means that the NFL season is here in my head.
Dude, it kind of is.
Literally, what is it, like Thursday? 7 days until the first game. And then we have a Sunday of all football. I really can't feel my head when I say that. I've never been more excited about football in my life. And I say that every year, so that's a problem.
Yeah, you do say that.
I was, well, anyway, before I get to that, welcome to Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Morgan Colby. Got Rick Lemon with me as always.
What's going on?
Today we got we're going to rank the second round running backs. So we're going to go through all the running backs that are ADPing based on Sleeper in the second round of drafts, and then rank those running backs and tell you who our favorite running back is and who our least favorite running back is. I believe we're good on all of these guys. Like, we like them all. Is that correct?
Yeah, I would draft any of them, honestly.
Okay.
Second round.
I was going to say, because some years they're second round running backs, and I'm like, hell no.
Last year, the third round was horrible. Probably one of the worst years I can ever remember.
Third round?
for
yeah, because it was like, it wasn't Mark Ingram,
Gurley, Le'Veon Bell.
Was Ingram in
was it Le'Veon Bell? Yeah, I think so.
I can't remember. But anyway, so second round running backs, we're going to rank them. Before we do that, check our website, fantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, the FF Champs, the Fantasy Champions. Just do that. Hook us up with a follow, a like, all that good stuff. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platforms, leave a review, share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell for notifications, like, and comment down below. Who is your favorite running back of this group? The guy that you really like and you're trying to get in every single league. Mm-hmm. I was going to say something, and I don't remember what it was because I don't remember what I opened the show. Oh, yeah. My me and my wife were driving to the supermarket yesterday, and
okay.
I already got yelled at about football, and it hasn't even started yet.
Just wait. Just give it like
because I told her, I said, so we're good. I'm just gonna watch every single game. Don't say that to your wife.
Oh boy.
She was like, I don't understand why you could like football, and I was like, I don't really understand reading, but you do that too.
Right.
Either or. She was like, she said, when I watch football with you, imagine if I made you read for 4.5 hours. And I said, I understand.
But she doesn't have to watch it with you, right?
No.
Technically?
No, not technically, but
I know we were like walking a tightrope here. But...
Yes, very fine lines. But anyway. Yes, so I watch every single game regardless of what like I sometimes I don't watch a game live, but I end up watching like highlights or stuff like that later. So
they had the conceded game or not conceded, the what is the word called? The game shortened on Game Pass.
Oh yeah, the 20-minute segments.
Yeah. So you can watch those.
Yeah, no, I used to do that for baseball. I used to have 40-minute baseball games, and I was like on board with that. But I don't watch baseball much anymore. So either way.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, we're going to jump into ranking second-round running backs here. Rick, do you have any immediate thoughts about cut down day? Nothing really interesting happening besides Cam Newton leaving. New England getting cut there. We might have some content coming out later in the future, next week. I don't know about that. But was there anything that was surprising to you or that affected your opinion on any of these players that happened on Tuesday?
Nothing that really stood out. The Cam Newton one was the thing that stood out the most. There was a lot of cuts, though, of players that were just drafted, like Des Fitzpatrick. who was a 4th-round pick for the Titans, got cut.
He got cut?
Yeah.
Frick.
So there was a couple of those like that, like some rookie players that just got drafted or drafted last year who were like relatively high. Like James Morgan was a 4th-round pick for the Jets. He got cut. So there were some like 4th and 5th-round picks from even this year and last year that got cut that were kind of surprising to me.
That they wouldn't hold out and use
overall nothing that like changes, Dennis Fitzpatrick doesn't affect AJ Brown, So there's nothing that really was crazy other than the Cam Newton one.
Last year, I believe they were restricted on undrafted free agents. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe they could bring those guys in, or they had a smaller roster size. I can't remember, but this year they went back to the full like 95 whatever man roster that you could hold on to until like the last week of the preseason. Mm-hmm. So that might be the reason why some of these other extra players got cut, because you had these younger undrafted free agents back and they liked them better. I don't know. Yeah. That is weird though. I noticed a lot of guys got cut that I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like not for, I guess for dynasty purposes. I saw people taking giant Vic laps on Jared Dokes and Javian Hawkins when they were.
They both got cut. Hawkins got picked up right away.
Did they really? Which one got picked up right away?
Hawkins. He got signed that day by the Titans. So
Death Valley.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry.
I know, like Seth Williams, he kind of went to a crowded team, so it makes a little bit of sense, but he was projected to go in like the 4th round in the NFL draft, fell to like the 5th or 6th, got taken by Denver, and he got cut as well. The Washington football team had Antonio Golden.
Oh, Antonio Gandy Golden.
Yeah.
He was a
3rd-round pick, wasn't he?
I think he was a 3rd-round pick.
Yeah, he was a 3rd-round pick, and he got cut. He was 3rd round last year, but still.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, some surprising names.
Yeah.
A lot of young
nothing players. Usually we get, like last year we got Fournette. I guess Cam was this year's shocker. A couple years ago was who was the running back for the Bills, and then we all saddle up on
LaShawn McCoy.
LaShawn McCoy got cut by the Bills, and then everyone started drafting Singletary. So every year there's like a surprising one or two surprising cuts. I believe that would be Cam, but Cam was not because of any particular fantasy value in and of himself. It was the whole how team and how it replicates there. But either way, interesting day, very exciting day for my Mac Jones trutherness. I'm a happy man, and now I got to wait 7, 8, 9 days until I get to watch Mac Jones play. But either way, let's talk about some second-round running backs. How about you?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'm going to go through this by ADP. Me and Rick have, well, actually, it's a rankings list, so maybe I should just go. I'm going to tell you the guys that we're talking about in ADP order, and then we'll rank them. So anyway, the 5 running backs that we're going to talk about that are going in the second round of drafts. Number 1 is Austin Eckler. His ADP is 13. Naja Harris is going second in the second round. He's going off the board at ADP of 18. I apologize if these are wrong because I made this list day and a half ago. So if the ADPs are not
ADP might have changed. I don't think it's going to change too much though.
But Joe Mixon ADPing at pick 20, Antonio Gibson ADPing at pick 21, and then Clyde Edwards Elaire getting picked at ADP of 24. So the last pick of the second round. Interesting that there's only 5 running backs, I would say, because in a situation where I feel like a lot of people have a strategy of taking multiple running backs in the first 2 to 3 rounds, and you only have 5 guys in the second. Like, I feel like that's less than half of a 12-team league.
Yeah, it is. It is, which is interesting. I think it's because people expect to go heavy or running back first round, and then typically most teams will go receiver with the next pick. I was
going to ask you. You said before the show that you recently, in the last couple of days, did 2 or 3 real mock drafts with people in them. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best way to mock, but either way, what are the strategies in the first couple of rounds that you've seen in those mocks? Have there been more running backs taken in the second round or less?
Yeah, there's more.
Okay.
I can pull up one of them if you want.
Go ahead.
see. But yeah, so I pick at the turn. I've been practicing because that's what I have in the home league, and typically I've been stuck taking those receivers.
Okay.
Yeah, so we had David Montgomery. Yeah, must have been you picking in one of them. He was the second to last pick in the second round. Let's see, another one I did. We had actually some tight ends. So Darren Waller and George Kittle both went in the second round.
Okay.
Which pushed some guys back. This one, though, I think was mostly just these guys, though. It's because typically in the first round, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 to 10 are all running backs. So like 10 of the first 12 picks are going to be running backs. So most of the teams in the second round that are picking running backs are going back-to-back running back.
And the other
so it's more likely for them to go receiver. Yeah.
Okay. Was that your entire thought, or did I interrupt you?
No, that was pretty much it.
Oh, okay.
It's usually only these guys. Maybe a Montgomery slides in, or a Swift, or Chris Carson.
But, yeah. I saw Dobbins in some mocks before he got hurt.
Yeah, Dobbins was right in this range as well. But yeah, now that he's hurt, it's usually Swift, Carson, Montgomery. Maybe even someone might go crazy and go like James Robinson,
or Josh Jacobs.
That's pretty much it. Yeah. That's more the third round though.
Yeah. So we're just going to talk about the 5 guys that are ADPing in that round though. So that would be Eckler, Najee, Joe Mixon, Gibson, and then Hilaire. Or I'll just call him Clyde because that's easier. But either way. So we're going to start off with number 1 on this list. We want to try to make this episode 25 minutes. So we'll see. So the number 1 guy we have on this list is lining up with the ADP of ADP 13 is Austin Eckler. For me, I feel like there is significant upside to Austin Eckler in the pass catching role. In standard leagues, I might rank these guys a little bit differently, but in half PPR and full PPR, I feel like Austin Eckler provides a very high pass catching ceiling, as well as a good rushing floor. So in that instance, I would choose Austin Eckler over all of these guys if I had the opportunity to take him. But it's honestly, the first 3 guys I have on the list is very close. Like, it could go either way. I just think we've seen from Austin Eckler, we've seen some really good seasons. They don't have, and they haven't had the need to go out. Like, after they lost Melvin Gordon, there was thoughts that maybe they didn't want Eckler and they wanted to shove somebody else into that role or draft somebody. And what is it? Still Josh Kelly and the other guy backing him up at this point?
Yeah. It's kind of just some crappy running backs.
Yeah, so for the situation with Austin Eckler, like, he's going to get the full complement of work. The question for him is, can he sustain what he was doing in the past couple seasons over the course of a 16-17 game schedule? I say 17 game schedule. That made my brain melt.
I know.
But anyway, 17 game schedule. He can't. He has stayed healthy all of 2019, but that was only with about 220 opportunities. Yeah. Last year he had 116 rushing attempts, 54 catches in 10 games. So you add those 6 games, obviously I think he probably would have been a lot better. He's an efficient runner, but my concern with him mostly is the fact that he has some injury problems that he's dealt with in the past. Now, that lines up kind of with his ADP. Like, you're not going to take him as a top, 8 or 9 running back off the board because of that injury history that he has. But if he can stay healthy for a full 16 or 17 games and, produce at that level, I think he's going to get 200 plus rush attempts. He'll probably catch 70 to 90 catches. And be somewhere in the vicinity of 700-800 receiving yards and probably over 10 touchdowns. So I mean, that's a good floor for him. I think there's a lot of upside with Austin Eckler. So I feel like I have to put him 1. Just I've always been down on him in the past and he's always been solid. Had the young guys that I was excited about ahead of him, but he provides a really good floor for you, especially if you're exiting the first round.
Absolutely, yeah.
Especially if you're at pick 13 too. That's the turn. So 12, 13. And if you want to go wide receiver running back at those areas and don't want to go double running back, Austin Eckler, you need a good floor running back with Austin Eckler.
I think durability is a valid concern, though.
Okay.
It's hard for me to see him through 17 games stay healthy.
Mm-hmm. I don't
and get the workload that he is expected to get
when he's had trouble staying healthy in a 16 game schedule.
Right, exactly. But when healthy, he is good. He was on pace last year for 86 catches in a full 16-game season with Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
And one of the games he played in, he got hurt in very early.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was the first quarter, maybe the second quarter. And that was the game he got hurt and missed 6 weeks because of it. So that game includes that projected game. Or that projections include that game. And he still was on pace for a great season. The only thing that stopped him was 3 total touchdowns.
Yeah.
In his stretch last season, which wasn't great. He gets that bumped up a little bit. He's going to have a great season. But, in half PPR and standard, I mean, I don't know who's playing standard still, but if you are, I definitely would put
PPR, please.
Eckler much lower on this list. In full PPR, he's number 1 to me. And in half PPR, it's a valid debate between him and some of these other guys. And I honestly might even go with the other guys in half PPR because PPR will add for Eckler if he gets 90 catches is going to give him a 20-point boost over some of these other guys, which would be the difference in rankings. But yeah, in terms of PPR, though, the thing with Eckler is you just know he's going to get 5 catches a game. He's going to be a very good receiving back. Last season he averaged 6 targets a game. He had a 17% target share, which was 4th among running backs, and I think that's low for him. So he's going to be good. He had 16.5 points, fantasy points per game, which ranked 9th among running backs. So that's pretty much the spot people
he falls
have
into that kind of. I guess for me, he falls into that same category as Swift and Kamara.
You mean that type of running back?
That type of running back. Yeah. Where he's going to get somewhere around 80 catches. And the rushing totals are not going to be as high as you would like to see them.
In 2019, now it was with Phillip Rivers, so he probably had even more targets, but he had 92 catches.
Yeah.
In a full season.
So, I mean, I hope that's what we see out of him. I think the pass catching upside is big, and they like to use him as a pass catcher. The new coaching staff doesn't suggest, in my mind, that he is going to be in some kind of committee, and that's backed up by the fact that they don't have anyone else on the roster besides Josh Kelly and Justin. Remember your last name, Kevin.
Justin Jackson.
Justin Jackson. I believe
they drafted this year. Larry something.
Larry Roundtree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, all 3 of those guys are pretty much non-factors.
But anyway, yeah. So Eckler, definitely number 1. Number 2, we talked about this guy a lot this offseason. Hasn't talked a lot about Eckler, so this is the first time we really, we might have talked 6 minutes on Eckler, but that's because we haven't talked about him. Naja Harris, we have talked about. He's number 2, still lining up with the ADP a little bit. I do love Naja Harris. Rick is surprised when he saw this list because this is probably how he would have written it out as well. We both agreed without talking to each other on it. But he was a little bit surprised that I didn't have Antonio Gibson ahead of Naja Harris because of the amount of hype that I put on Gibson. But Najee going to Pittsburgh is big. And for me, it's opportunity, opportunity, opportunity. We saw what opportunity did for a running back by the name of, in a terrible offense, with a terrible offensive line, by the name of James Robinson last year. And he had a great season. Naja Harris is far more talented than James Robinson. And he's in a better offense than James Robinson was. I don't care if his offensive line is me, Rick, and 5 of our previous writers. Naja Harris is going to be good. So
I think if that was the case, he would actually even be better. I think I could be a pretty good left tackle.
Listen, all those trips to Chipotle, helping the stomach out. I don't go to the gym at all, so I probably need to hit the gym. But I could hold up for a week.
Yeah, you got a game in you.
But anyway, but Naja Harris, it doesn't really matter if the offensive line is ranked 30th by PFF to me. I feel like he's talented enough and good enough to do that. And not just is he going to get the rushing work, but he's one of the best pass-catching running backs coming out of the draft. And so I think he has all this talent and ability to rush on the ground. And which I would put him in the same conversation in breadth as Jonathan Taylor from last year, right? Like if these two were drafted in the same draft, would they have been in the same conversation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they would. I think Taylor would have been slightly ahead of Harris, but they would have been in the same tier though.
So as far as running style, not running style, but as far as what they are rushing, I think Najee is very similar to Jonathan Taylor, but he also provides this high level of pass catching, which is what the Steelers want in their running back. So there's a lot of opportunities going Najee's way, and I think this is one of those things where it's an easy decision. Take the opportunity, even if he's inefficient, similar to how Le'Veon Bell was inefficient in the past with the Steelers.
That's the
he's
comparison.
Still top 10. So I feel like this is an easy pick. And I honestly think he should be a first round pick like Clyde was last year. I'm honestly shocked that he's not.
It's the offensive line is the only thing I think that's holding him back.
Yeah. So he's number 2 on this list for that reason. Opportunity.
And like I do value offensive line. It's by no means though a like deciding factor for me, which is why I still like Naja Harris. I think it's like it's kind of just something like an average running back with a bad offensive line. I'm not great with. I'm not like, oh, he's gonna be great. I think that kind of hurts him a little bit. But when a player is like Naja Harris, it doesn't have as much of an effect if he's talented enough to overcome. Because you look at Saquon Barkley, has had horrible offensive lines. Christian McCaffrey has had horrible offensive lines, and those guys still ended up being top 5 running backs. I think Harris has that sort of potential. Now it does concern me, but it's not anything that I'm like, I won't draft him because of the Steelers' offensive line, because I believe in the talent. Right. And I believe that he's going to have a lot of opportunity. Now, they didn't run the ball a whole lot last year, and I think they did say that one of the reasons they drafted Harris is because they do want to run the ball more. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of like we need to see it first. But if they do run the ball more and they go back to kind of like that Le'Veon Bell style Steelers offense where he plays that Le'Veon Bell role, then Naja Harris is going to be an RB1. He's going to be alone. Like, I think he legitimately will be like in that RB like 6 to 12 range, and you're drafting him in the second round. Right. It's a steal.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I in half PPR, I'm tempted to even say Harris over Eckler, but in PPR, I think I would still take Eckler over him.
Yeah.
Just because of the receiving work.
Like I said, I'm shocked that he's not a first round pick.
Yeah.
Like, even because of that, and like Rick said, I totally echo that point of, like, we look at offensive line highly in our rankings and our projections and all the stuff and all the content we provide to you. Like, we look at offensive line very, very, like, as a very important factor. It's one of the most important factors for me. But when you're talking about the talent of Naja Harris and the type of offense that Pittsburgh has, I just feel like it doesn't matter if the offensive line's not great. And I don't don't do that for everyone. Like, don't just say, oh, well, because the team isn't really that, like, if the player is not really that talented, you don't use talent as an excuse to, I guess, push the player up.
And I tweeted this.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh.
Zoom calls. There it is. Exactly. Freaking unbelievable.
Go ahead. You go ahead.
But you don't want to elevate the status of a player despite the offensive line normally. But I would say that Naja Harris's talent and his ability and the way that they're going to utilize him are very large factors into why I believe he should be a first round pick. But I'm going to take him 2 on this list though.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly last thing to say. It's just I tweeted last night or the other night about Mike Davis and why I'm not super high on him. And a player like that, where his offensive line's bad and he historically does not rush for over like 4 yards a carry, the last 2 seasons at least he hasn't, and you put him in a situation where he doesn't have a great offensive line, that's going to hurt, to me at least. Or at least he wasn't in a good offensive line last year, so at least it's not going to make it any better. But with a player like Naja Harris,
right,
it's a little different because of his talent level.
Right. Let's move on to the next guy because we don't have a lot of time left. But number 3 is Antonio Gibson, ADP of 21. So he does slot in, and I was talking to Rick before the show, and I feel like these guys, like I said, they're very close to me. I would like any one of these players. But Gibson is basically McCaffrey light, and he's in an offense where the head coach's name is Ron Rivera, and he also happened to coach Christian McCaffrey. There has been a lot of push in the direction of Gibson being the number 1 running back. The only concern I have is pass catching upside with him, and it's not because I don't believe he can't. It's because when you look at what Washington did last year, they passed the ball a lot to J.D. McKissic. And so I don't know if Gibson is going to get the same amount of pass catching work that a guy like McCaffrey would. But he's still probably gonna have 40 to 50 catches. That would be my guess. And then he provides like 200 to 250 carries. We talk about what he did last year with just what do we say, 50 something % of the snaps?
Yeah,
somewhere in that vicinity.
43% snap share.
If he gets up to like 65 to 70% snap share, what was he already, like a top 10 running back? He's going to end up being like a top 5 running back easily. And this is why I feel like a lot of people are overlooking this. Like, yeah, maybe he decreases in efficiency just a little bit, but I feel like what he misses in efficiency this year, he's going to make up for in workload. So it's just there's no reason to look at Gibson and be like, oh, he's not going to be good. He sucks. He blows, whatever. I really do believe, like, and this is one of the, we have Najee as a breakout, we have Gibson as a breakout. I 100% believe that Antonio Gibson will be, whether it's this year or next year or the year after that, at some point in the next 2 to 3 seasons, he is going to end up a top 5 running back in fantasy football. And it might be this year. And I want to get on that train now before I get midway through the season. I have a top 5 running back that I got in the second round, and everyone's like, I'm looking at the team that drafted him going, oh, freaking A, I wish I had.
Well, that's the crazy thing with Gibson. He averaged 14.5 fantasy points a game on a 40% snap share. And I think, 70 is extreme to me. Not necessarily extreme, but like that's like asking a lot. That's a real workhorse. But you get that up to like 55, 60%. I mean, he's going to go up by like 2, 3, 4 fantasy points per game easily, which would put him in the top 10. And like, wow, it's an easy one. Gibson's an easy one, I think, this year. All 3 of these guys are definitely, if you can snag them, you want to do that, and you can rank them in any order you want. Yeah, Gibson, we've talked about. He's your guy, though. So
yeah, 100%.
Glory.
All right, let's move on to the next one. The most unsexy pick in the 4th round, and it's just.
But
4th year breakout Joe Mixon.
Yeah, you either love him or you hate him. I mean, it's like the 4th year in a row that he's...
I respect people who are still 100% breakout Joe Mixon. You've been on that train for so many years. I'm honestly astounded. And I'm not making funny. I honestly I like your consistency. I can't figure it out. I'm done with Joe Mixon breakouts. Maybe he's just a top 15 running back. Have we considered that? Like maybe he won't ever be a top 6 or 7 fantasy finisher.
As a late 2nd round pick, and with already like 16 running backs off the board. Yeah. That's fine.
And I'm not even saying Joe Mixon can't finish as an RB1. Like I think he could finish 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
He can.
I just don't know if there's that top 5 upside. Like Najee, top 5 upside. Antonio Gibson, top 5 upside. Austin Eckler, top 5 upside. Joe Mixon, I don't think he has top 5 upside this year. He might, but I feel like the percentages are much higher for Gibson, Harris, and Eckler.
It's definitely higher for those guys. But what I will say about Mixon is he had, before he got hurt last year, so it was only 6 games. Yeah. You know how many carries a game he got? Carries per game? 19.83. Wow. So he had 119 carries in just 6 games. He was on pace for like 300 carries? Right. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Yikes.
But you know what his fantasy point per opportunity was?
Was it like 0.7?
It was. You were pretty much hit the nail on the head. It was 0.69, which was 67th among running backs.
Oh,
yeah, not good.
Yikes.
Not good.
Is that 3.6 yards per carry? That's what was going on.
Yeah, that's the reason for it, was the 3.6 yards per carry. But hey, dude, if he gets the same opportunity, it's kind of hard that he wouldn't finish as an RB2 at least,
right.
like a high end.
At least, and on the high end, yeah. And I think what we were talking about before pertaining to Naja Harris and his ability at the or his ability to rush and his talent. And that superseding offensive line. Joe Mixon's one of those players where he's talented, he's good, but offensive line's gonna need some help from those guys. They're not pushing people around. You know what I mean? So, I mean, they've made some improvements on the offensive line. They have some guys that they've drafted going into their second year. Honestly, I would be very much so on the Joe Mixon train if they had taken Penei Sewell. But they didn't. Yeah. But for me, like, I look at Joe Mixon and I think they did draft an offensive lineman this year, correct?
In the fourth round. Oh, you know what? Maybe they did take one in the second round.
I could be wrong about that, but anyway.
I think you're right.
But the offensive line has made some improvements. They traded for, I believe, an offensive lineman this week or last week or whatever. So I believe they're trying to make improvements to the offensive line. Joe Burrow is definitely going to be better this year. He's seen the coverages. He understands what's going on. I feel like we don't know what his kneecap is going to be like. His good old knee after he tore his ACL, but
that's true.
We'll see if that how that affects.
Jackson Carman.
Say it again.
In the second round. They took Jackson Carman in the second round.
Okay.
So offensive lineman.
But Joe Mixon, I think he's going to need that offensive line help, and hopefully the improvements they've made in the offensive line are enough to get Joe Mixon back up to 4.5 yards a carry. Because if he's at 0.8 fantasy points per opportunity, I mean, you're talking about a guy that could...
All he needs.
But say it again?
I said that's all he needs.
Oh, that's all he needs, 100%. So it's like, I feel like if you like Mixon, and see, now I'm talking myself into believing Mixon has a breakout, and this is what I do every year. But I look at Joe Mixon and I'm like, the top 5 upside's really hard for me, especially in this offense. It needs to be better. I feel like even with a bad offensive line for Pittsburgh, that their offense is still going to move the ball down the field effectively because they've done it in the past, even with bad offensive lines. I mean, they did it last year. So I feel like the offense itself is going to be okay in Pittsburgh, whereas the offense for the Bengals is just like, there's a lot of assets, a lot of weapons, a lot of things going on there, but are they going to come together this year and end up like the 2017 Rams, or was it 2018? I can't remember what Super Bowl they went to.
Yeah.
Where they just came out of nowhere, were really good.
The first half of the season.
So, but I'm like, is that something that we're going to see from Joe Burrow and from this offense? And just
it would only be on the offensive side if they did that, though, because they do not have Aaron Donald. They have no defense. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I'm not saying they're going to the Super Bowl. I just mean offensively.
Right, I get what you're saying.
Where they are able to score at will, and if that's the case, Joe Mixon's big. I feel like he's worth as a floor pick because, like Rick said, the opportunity's there. I think the efficiency is going to be better. His schedule is not as hard as it was last year, so I think there's some good things for Joe Mixon here, improved offensive line, stuff like that. But I think in the future you're going to see, hopefully, he can be an upside pick, where it's not just a floor pick and late in the second round where
and you just need a running back.
You just need maybe you drafted, maybe you were the 6th pick and you drafted Devontae Adams or Stephen Diggs,
and then there's a huge run,
or Tyreek Hill, and you need a running back. Joe Mixon provides a good floor for you to take him in the second round to supplement that wide receiver and build your team in that way. It's not a sexy pick. To me, it's not sexy anymore. We haven't talked a lot about Mixon. It took us until this week, 7 days before the NFL season begins, to talk about Joe Mixon. But I just feel like there's not a massive upside play to him at this point. I feel like there's a floor play to him at this point, similar to what Montgomery was in last year, I guess. Not in terms of the production that Montgomery provided, but people were drafting him with a floor of like top 15 running back or top 16 running back, that kind of thing.
Right.
So I don't know if you have any more thoughts on Joe Mixon, but
no, we can move on to the last guy.
So the last guy that we have is Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and we're going to try to zip through this really quickly, but his ADP 24, so he's the last pick in this round. And I really like Clyde. I think he's fantastic. The big problem with Clyde, which I don't think a lot of people thought was going to be the case last year, and I was a Clyde guy, and I said that there were problems with his pass catching upside. And a lot of people in the fantasy community were like, no, he's going to catch 70 passes. I'm like, what historically has shown you that any running back in an Andy Reid offense is going to catch 60 passes?
It's just because of what he was known for in college and Mahomes, right?
But like, you look at that, and then you look at like the way Andy Reid runs his offenses. I looked at Kareem Hunt, and I fully expected, because everyone's like, oh, he's a great pass-catching running back. He's this, that. I expected fully to see Kareem Hunt's numbers when he was with Kansas City to be 60, 70 receptions a season. You know what it was?
What?
30 to 40. Which is, I don't know, if you look at Clyde's numbers, 36 receptions. Not too far off from what Kareem Hunt did. So I don't think this guy, I think there's a chance he gets 50 catches. I just don't think there's this upside for him where he ends up getting, I don't know, like 60, 70 catches. Like if he does that, he's a top 5 running back automatic. But I just don't think that that's going to happen. Obviously, you had Le'Veon Bell sign. You had some other situations happen last year where snap percentage went down. They're going into this. They literally cut Darwin Thompson. The Darwin Thompson truthers have died. It's over.
Yep.
But Darwin Thompson's been cut. Damian Williams isn't there anymore. You have Darrell Williams, and you have the other guy whose name escapes me. And it's literally Clyde's backfield. They're not signing another guy. They're not bringing anyone else in. This is Clyde's backfield 100%. He's going to get 225 to 250 rush attempts. He's going to get probably 40 to 50 catches, and he's going to get hell of a lot more than 5 total touchdowns than he had last year. So
yeah,
lots of upside here for Clyde. I think that what people thought he was going to be last year is what he is going to provide this year.
Yeah, and I've said this on the show before. I'll just say it again with Clyde. Before they signed Le'Veon Bell, he was on pace for almost 300 carries, 285, 1,300 rushing yards, and just 3 touchdowns. So his touchdowns were he only had 1 touchdown.
Which is, I think, is going to change, to be honest with you.
56 receptions on 83 targets. I'm not saying he does that because I don't know if they. If he does, I mean, he could be the one that nobody talks about with that top 5 potential. This is why Joe Mixon is so boring, because you have guys like Antonio Gibson and Naja Harris.
Almost like should we move Clyde to 4?
It's tempting, but Mixon's rushing floor, like he's gonna get so many touches, So that's kind of why. But it's tempting. It's very tempting.
Like those numbers that you just provided. If that's what he does, then that's fantastic. And I think the biggest problem that he had last year was he had 5 total touchdowns on the season. And a lot of people anticipated there being more touchdown upside because of the fact that you're in the Patrick Mahomes offense. And when Damian Williams was rushing it the year prior, he was literally scoring a touchdown a game. So it's like that didn't happen for Clyde for whatever reason. I don't know if it was a change in concept or just the way that they were scoring touchdowns last year was large chunk plays. I don't know.
Yeah.
Which is what happens when the Kansas City Chiefs are playing. But I do think that there is situations where Clyde is going to get more than 5 touchdowns this year. Like that efficiency metric is going to skyrocket. Like that positive regression, I don't know if you believe it, whether you don't believe in it or you believe in it, that's going to happen in this touchdown category, 100%. I just wanted to quickly, before we end the show, bring up his fantasy point per opportunity rate, which was 0.75 last year, and that's because of the touchdowns.
And it was because of the touchdowns, and in the second half of the season, he was not as good of a player. But that was the moment from the week they signed Le'Veon Bell. Mm-hmm. His yards per carry dropped by 0.7.
Wow!
So in the first 6 weeks he averaged, and it wasn't like his schedule was relatively difficult still.
Right,
like he was playing the Chargers, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Bills, and he was averaging 4.7 yards per carry. And then from the week they signed Le'Veon Bell, he averaged 4 yards a carry. So it definitely went down, and his opportunity went down as well. But everything went down.
This is his backfield, so
this is his backfield now.
I think the only reason why I personally put Joe Mixon ahead of Clyde was because Clyde is in a situation where I believe he suffered a hamstring injury. Don't quote me on that. There was an injury that Clyde is suffering. I'm not going to pull it up because we don't have time, but there's an injury that Clyde suffered. And it makes me, I don't want to chase injuries. So I'm not running around drafting guys that have injuries, which is why, Najee's ahead of Gibson, which is why Joe Mixon's ahead of Clyde. That's one of those situations where I don't want to get a guy and find out that he was dealing with an injury and 3 weeks from now have Clyde have pop his hammy and miss 3 weeks of the season. Like, that would suck. So that's kind of why I have him behind Joe Mixon.
Is he questionable for week 1?
I don't know.
Yeah. I know he is battling an injury, so
I can pull it up real fast. Clyde. I said I wasn't going to, but I do it anyway. Clyde Edwards Hilaire suffered a... Okay, there's no news for him. That's fantastic. So he left Friday's preseason game with what was described as a slight ankle sprain. Said they were going to double check it. This was back on August 21st. I don't know if it was week 1, 2, or 3 of the preseason. Can't remember.
Yeah, that was a while ago now. So,
but
I think he's okay. Yeah,
so he should be okay. I just those injuries, especially ankle injuries and hamstring injuries, those things linger. So I really don't want to that. That's why he's not ahead. But like I said, I'm totally fine with taking him or any one of these running backs. It doesn't really hurt me. Mm-hmm. If that ankle injury wasn't there, Clyde would probably be 4. To be on my list. But either way, they were all your second round running backs for the fantasy football season 2021. Next time we talk to you, it will be next week on Tuesday. And there will be football that week. We got starts and sits next week. I'm so excited. We'll talk to you on Tuesday, guys.
See you guys later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.